James here. Welcome to a new podcast venture, CineMarks, the movie podcast with a wrestling twist. And because it's a movie podcast and it's a wrestling twist, who else is better to do it with than my good friend, the one and only Mr. Paul London? Paul.
Hey! No, this is great.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. No, this is great. We're finally getting this off the ground. James and I have been gestating this idea for quite a while. And, same. Who better to talk action movies, martial arts films, horror films? We're going to cover as much as we can in terms of what we're just diehard marks for, which lends itself to the name, right? We're marks for cinema. And so there we are, CineMarks. I'm proud to be a CineMark.
Oh, yeah. I told some of my friends about it. And they said, let me guess, you're going to focus on the 80s. I'm like, yeah, probably the 80s.
There's, 80s, 90s, even some late 70s, possibly, into some 70s, but 80s, yeah, sounds about right. That's the chunk of it. So,
yeah. And everyone, thank you for joining us. And please, if you can, give us a thumbs up, hit that like button, and please, if you enjoyed the episode, please consider subscribing and help us get off the ground. So, Paul, we love martial arts, we love the 80s. So, the go-to guy, Mr. Jean-Claude Van Damme, in his first major film, I would say.
Absolutely. Yes. I grew up doing martial arts of various forms. And so ever since I was probably maybe 8, is when I started taking karate. And then just continued on. I got into Kuk-Soo-Won, which is a Korean martial art, and did that for a few years. I even took ninjutsu class in Austin. It was I don't think it was a real ninja class though. I mean, I went to there was this place called the Dojo, and it was in North Austin. And they offered all these different styles. And obviously, as like a 9-10-year-old, whatever I was at the time, ninjutsu, like that stands out, like what kid doesn't want to be a ninja? So I took that for a few weeks, but it was bizarre because it was really I feel like it was just a big excuse for everyone to round up and go like paintballing or something. I don't know. I know that sounds weird, but they kept pushing this paintball retreat. And I thought, are we going to throw like paint stars or something? Like, I don't know, maybe the blow dart with the paint. But anyways, so I've always been just in love with martial arts, even before wrestling, long before wrestling. So I've trained Muay Thai, I've done some Wing Chun, most recently Taekwondo. I love all martial arts and I know that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is so popular right now and everything, but to me, that's probably my least favorite, I think, because it's less flashy and I know, probably going to get a lot of heat for that, but I really gravitate towards the more cinematic martial arts. And so, and I know John Wick and, all these films are incorporating Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I get it. It's effective. I get it. But I would love to see a UFC that had all the styles really accentuated. Anyways, that's best of the best too. We'll get to that. And Shoot Fighter.
Oh, we'll definitely get to them. And so our first movie, No Retreat, No Surrender. So I came across this movie. I must have been about 8 or 9, and over here in the UK we have a thing called car boot sales, which you call garage sales, except it's out of a car boot or trunk, as you call it, over here. So I came across it. I saw the poster. There was Van Damme, which I've already seen some Van Damme movies. He's got the Soviet Union flag behind him, the Russian flag. Well, yeah, it's the Soviet Union flag. And then you got Jason Stillwell, and he's got the United States flag behind him. And the artwork was great. I mean, I'll pop it up here. So this is the great thing about doing a pre-recorded episode, everyone. So a lot of people watching this will know us from Cafe Day, Rene Dupree, which subscribe to that channel as well. But with that channel, we mainly do live streams now, but with this, we can throw in some, I don't know, bells and whistles, some clips, and some pictures, so you'll be able to see this. But I was like, wow, this looks amazing. And I read the back, and I'm like, wow. So put it in, and something we'll get into later. I watched, so the UK VHS tape, which dating myself now, is actually the American theatrical version, and it's very, very different to the international version, which is on Amazon and on YouTube as well. Even both versions are actually on YouTube. But watched it, fell in love with it. Is it like the Karate Kid? Yes, but watched it. Stillwell was portrayed as a teenager, even though I think he was in his mid-20s. The guy playing
22.
him at the time, 22 actually.
Yeah,
Oh
he
wow!
was 22 at the time.
Uh,
So yeah.
and yeah, loved it. Seeing Van Damme as a villain was rare for me at the time to see him like that. The only other films at that time, like when this came out, he was a villain in like Black Eagle, but besides that, he was a babyface. So yeah, I fell in love with the movie. Paul, how did you come across No Retreat, No Surrender?
Fortunately, I saw it much younger than that. I saw it, I want to say maybe in 87. It was produced in 84, and I don't think it was released theatrically until 86.
Yeah.
But I caught it soon after, on VHS. I didn't see it in the cinema, unfortunately, although it did get released to like over 300 something theaters. But yeah, no, I saw it on VHS. It was one of those rentals, like you said, just based off of the poster or video box cover artwork. It's like this is amazing. This looks like every video game marquee that I
Yeah.
loved. And so that, funny enough, was my introduction to Jean-Claude Van Damme as well, because I hadn't really seen anything. I hadn't seen Bloodsport yet. I certainly hadn't seen Monaco Forever. So, I didn't know who he was, but one of the images that it's one of the most iconic images is him doing the splits across the ropes, and just kind of, just such a badass. And it's funny because he really only has about less than 10 minutes of screen time,
And about about 2 lines of dialogue.
yeah, but he has like five. If you look at him as fights, he has like five kind of fights in that
Yeah.
10 minutes. And so, yeah, I love this film, and it's funny that you mentioned that it was kind of a Karate Kid ripoff, because the company that made No Retreat, No Surrender is Seasonal Films. It's a Hong Kong-based, really just martial arts films, and they put out Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, which is kind of what really introduced, I think, Jackie Chan to the American audience, because it didn't come out in America. It was like, I think, 1978 or something, but it came out in 82 maybe. And from what I've understood, Seasonal Films, which was run by Ng Si Yoon, I think. Excuse me if I mispronounce these names. But anyways, there was an American writer, Keith Strandberg, who's also a martial artist, and he was doing these tours to China, and he really wanted to start writing and making martial arts films. And he, I guess, tried with every company, from Golden Harvest and Shaw Brothers, and he went to everybody. But he was also fluent in Mandarin, so that's kind of what got him in the door at Seasonal Films. And I guess their idea was, we need to make a Hong Kong martial arts movie for the Western audience, for the American audience. And from what I read, a lot of that comes from, I can't quite remember if it was Roy Horan, who I guess worked in like their sales department or something, or Huang Jing Li, who was like the masterful kicker from those films. Somebody had brought it to their attention when the Karate Kid came out, which I guess was like 84. Pretty quickly, their idea was that Karate Kid not stole, but really kind of, uh, I guess, used the old wise teacher, young student concept, which was from Snake and the Eagle's Shadow. And so they felt kind of as though, here's this movie that came out in America using our formula, and became a massive blockbuster, right? Karate Kid.
Yeah.
And so I think from what I've understood, they wanted to kind of show them how it's done, because they didn't think that the fights and all that were as impressive as they could be, obviously, because and also, in my opinion, the Hong Kong style of fighting is, from a fight choreography standpoint, and the way they shoot it is, it's second to none. And so that was kind of where they started to think, okay, well, we use Keith Strandberg and his writing and his ideas and his understanding of that audience, and we'll all kind of put our heads together. And the rough story, came from Eun Soo-yoon and Corey Yuen, who directed this movie. And Corey Yuen went on and directed Transporter.
Right.
He also did DOA with which I didn't see DOA. I think Kevin Nash is in that.
Dead or Alive. It's based on the video game it's based on.
Yes. He also, after. Yeah, I didn't see it. I've heard. I mean, you're probably the first person who's ever said great.
Or seen it.
Yeah, maybe that.
Holly Falance. She was like an Australian soap star, became a singer. She's in
Jamie Presley's in that too, isn't it? Isn't Jamie
Presley? Devin Aoki. She was in Sin City.
Sin City, yeah. She's like the daughter. She's like the daughter or heiress or something of like the Benihana restaurants or something, I think.
Oh wow!
I might be getting her mixed up with somebody else, but yeah. Either way, we probably won't be covering Dead or Alive on this page.
You never know. If the demand is there, we'll review it.
Yeah. Well, after No Retreat, No Surrender, Corey Yuen also directed Yes, Madam, which is a pretty badass Hong Kong film. Cynthia Rothrock, Michelle Yeoh. We could easily cover that as well if we really wanted to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, just an action director. He actually directed the sequel, No Retreat, No Surrender 2, which I would hope likely talk about on another show. So anyways, yeah, they really wanted to cast fighters. They wanted to cast people with legitimate martial arts backgrounds, and they held this casting call in Hollywood, apparently at Raleigh Studios. I don't think they understood the concept of an open call.
Yeah,
there were like hundreds of people like lined up. I mean, like hundreds of people, and so I was seeing
about the same size as me as well.
I mean, just all shapes and sizes, right? They said it was clearly not just fighters, which is kind of what the breakdown was for. And then Keith Strandberg gets tasked with going outside and walking down this long list of hopefuls and selecting people kind of based off their look. And he said it was like the worst part of the job was doing that because he had never done casting before. But yeah, that was their idea, was let's do our concept that we did with Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, of the grand kind of old wise teacher teaching the young student by having them do these kind of drills and trainings that maybe don't make a lot of sense, but then they pay off in the end. And let's take that concept back and really make a blockbuster, but something that'll appeal to the American audience. We'll use our style of fighting. And so that's why I think No Retreat, No Surrender still has some really great action scenes, like really great fight scenes, in terms of the fighting itself. I'll take that over the fighting in Karate Kid. Nothing against Pat Johnson or that stunt team or what they put on there. I mean, it's obviously an iconic film, but that's a risk when you want to just pad your cast with fighters because they're not necessarily actors, right?
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely see that. Not saying they're actors, so we'll get into the movie. So the opening, we overlook Los Angeles. We're gonna be reviewing the international version. It's the longer version, but we will tell the differences throughout. But we
You like the
overlook
international? You like the international, or the? I mean, the UK or the international is the slower versions. I just want to because it can get confusing.
all right. So the international one is the one with the song. Nobody
The,
told you.
yeah, okay, so if you watch, that's the way you'll know. Apparently, is there's yellow credits at the beginning,
Yes,
and if you
that's
watch
the American version
the one with the song or without,
without the song. The one without the song
no,
is actually the
I think
American theatrical version.
no, I think the one with the song. Because it's like if you watch the yellow credits, you're watching the trimmed version. Because I watched the international, I think, last night, and that had red credits.
That's right. That's
So
got the song.
it didn't have the song, though. I'm telling you, it didn't.
No,
It
man, it
didn't.
is. I'm watching it right now.
Well, so they're confusing. Thank you for confusing us, seasonal films.
Episode
Not,
one, everyone.
yeah,
It was
not.
good while it lasted.
But we're sure we're not the only ones who are confused out there who are like, wait a minute, this doesn't play the same as when I saw it as a kid. Like, this is very different. Like, what's going on here? Because it's
Yeah,
funny. The music is very dramatic, and it's like almost horror movie, early Friday the 13th type, who done it type, tones and
yeah,
stuff throughout the film. It's really strange. But yes, we both agree that we enjoy the version with the songs that like. I mean, I'm trying to remember. Was it you have the vision? I think that's.
yeah. The
Uh,
Vision is the song, so that's on the international version, which is on Amazon, and that this is the longer version. The shorter version doesn't have all the music cues. The shorter version has the slow start with the yellow writing, and it's actually got its own song called "No Retreat, No Surrender." And we'll talk through it. But like for example, in the end fight, in the international version, it has flashbacks of when he's training under Bruce Lee. But
right.
in the American theatrical version, which is also the version I watched as a kid on VHS, it doesn't have the flashbacks, and the fight flows so much better. But we'll get to it.
See, because I feel that I have seen the version with the song that also had flashbacks of the
That is
training.
it. That is it. Yeah.
Okay, but it also has the song. It has the songs and everything, and it's trimmed out the other fluff scenes. The longer scenes. That's got to be the shorter version. There's like an 84, 85, 86 minute something, and there's like an hour and a half version. So either which way, it's confusing.
Yeah. The hour and a half. Yeah, the hour and a half version is the international version. So that's got the song "Nobody Told You," and it's got the flashbacks during the fight at the end. That is the international version. The shorter version, which is the American version, that hasn't got the song. It's got a different song, and it's got less music, and it hasn't got flashbacks. They're
I
the
don't
two
know.
differences.
I feel
We'll
like there's a
carry on.
third. We will. We'll carry on. This is funny though, because I'm sure we're not the only ones who are confused by this. So yeah, they show up. We're in Los Angeles. They're going down Ventura Boulevard. We pan in on this karate studio where Tom Stillwell is running his karate class. And funny thing is, that is actually Sherman Oaks Karate. It's not there anymore.
Right.
I think it's like a luggage store or something right now, or
Oh wow.
there's a music store right there that's right next to it, and you can still see the same rocks and stones that are on the outside of the building. Those are still, you can see where that used to be.
Yeah.
And at the time they were shooting this, and I'd have to go back and look again, but apparently there's a little girl at the front. There's a little girl in
That's
the
right.
karate
Yes.
class, and that's Michelle the Mouse Krasnu, who co-starred in Kickboxer 4 way, 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 way later, right? Because
Really? Oh,
yeah,
th-
her father
yeah, yeah.
owned, that was his karate studio, which I think, I might be wrong, but I think he took that over from Chuck Norris, because I think that Chuck Norris had that studio beforehand. I know he had a studio, I think, down um, somewhere near Wilshire, and I want to say his name's Ernie Krasnu. I could be way off here. yeah, that was his studio that they used. That was legit, the Sherman Oaks Karate studio. So yeah, open up on these karate techniques. We see Jason Stillwell sparring with a partner, and then hams it up a little bit and gets Bruce Lee on his ass and does all that. And obviously his wet towel of a father is not having it because he's just yeah. You like Tom Stillwell, I can tell. He's your favorite actor of the movie.
Well, there's a debate. So because this is a movie podcast with wrestling twist, we've got some like kind of like slammy, our own slammies. We'll call them. We'll come up with a name, but we're gonna have the baby face of the movie, the heel of the movie, the Marquis.
So we'll cover that towards the end. We'll kind of roughly review the characters and moments and subplots. I mean, we might throw it out there while we're going through it, but yeah, we'll compare the storyline to a wrestling match.
Yeah, but Timothy D. Baker, who plays Tom Stillwell, he's up against someone else for being the worst actor in the movie. No offense.
We'll see. So this car pulls up. It's got California plates on it. So they obviously rented the car. They didn't drive from New York. These three well-dressed guys come out. One of them obviously younger and more physically impressive than the other two. The other one with the beard, I think he was like the butcher. I can't remember what his name was at the end that they called him. And then you have just New York. I want to say he's credited as New York agent is what his credit is. So he actually never has a name. This main guy that shows up.
Joe Farocca, New York agent.
Yeah. And I didn't see anything else in his IMDb that I recognized, but he played a nice, like, smarmy agent, I guess. So he goes in there and interrupts the class and propositions Sensei Stillwell one more time. So the idea that we're supposed to understand is that these New York gangsters are now infiltrating the major karate dojos to take over them so that they'll be a front for their organized crime syndicate. And they want Sensei Stillwell's Sherman Oaks Karate, of which he refuses. And you have to kind of try and piece a lot of this together, because then the New York agent says perhaps it'll prove constructive for others with similar ideas, and he sends the bearded one after him. And Sensei Stillwell's like, fighting will solve nothing, like he's just.
If I must.
Yeah, but if I must, that's on the longer version. Like, I don't think that was cut out. He's just like, fighting will solve nothing, But so. Yeah, but he goes, but if I must, and it's really funny. So they do some kicks back and forth, some blocks, and he seems to get the better hand of him. Ends up getting the bearded butcher, whatever his name is, down on a knee, which perfectly sets up for Jean-Claude's character, Ivan the Russian Krasinski, to jump off bearded butcher's shoulder with a beautiful sidekick.
Well, I've got a story there to interrupt. So
I think I've heard this story. Go ahead. Yes.
So Van Damme, love Van Damme, but apparently he was a bit full-on contact during the filming of No Retreat, No Surrender. And that scene where he jumps off bearded guys, I should have wrote his name down, actually.
I can't.
Jump off, and he delivered a sweet kick to the chest. Well, during the filming, multiple times he made contact with Timothy D. Baker's face.
Nice.
And also in his ankle at one point. Don't know how.
See, I'll add one. Oh, go ahead. Do you have more of it?
Well, yeah, because this leads to another Van Damme movie, Cyborg.
Oh, right.
I've never actually seen Cyborg. I do apologize, everyone, but I haven't actually seen Cyborg.
We're done. We're closing down CineMarks.
We're done.
Yeah, this is over. No more.
That's it. All of it.
All of it is done. God.
Cafe fans will know what we're talking, but there's the one character in it, African-American gentleman, and I think he lost an eye, lost sight in the eye because of Van Damme.
Right.
And Timothy D. Baker, who plays Tom Stillwell, actually testified against Van Damme during that court case, and
Wow.
the plaintiff was awarded with like 500K from that court case against
Jeez.
Van Damme. So,
Jeez.
some trivia knowledge on the CineMarks, everyone.
Well, to go further on that, I remember watching a Jean-Claude documentary of sorts, and they interviewed Tim Baker, and he said that there was a take when Jean-Claude goes to step on the bearded butcher's shoulder and slips, and he just lands on his feet, and they all cut. And he was so mad, he just throws out a kick anyways, right to his dick, like just kicked him right in the nuts. I'm not even kidding, like out of rage, like just was so frustrated and pissed off. This is coming from Tim Baker himself, like,
Yeah.
but yeah. So I mean, he didn't make too many friends on that set. And it's funny, like the way Jean-Claude was cast was apparently he sent in all his pictures and his materials, and again, I want to say it was at seasonal, they had this thing where they could tell who was a good fighter based on their pictures, and they wanted to take a look at them. And then I had seen that he had gone into a karate studio to audition, and they had like 3 Chinese stuntmen or something there as like judges, and they had to like put him through some workouts, and they wanted to see his forms and his techniques, and he, that's kind of how they were testing these people that were coming in there. And there was a guy apparently walking around similar to the guy in Enter the Dragon who's on the boat, and he's walking up and he's like throwing punches at him. Do I bother you? And what's your style? And there was a guy like that walking around this audition dojo, because there was like, I think, a few people auditioning here and there. And so they had Van Damme spar against this guy, and he ended up knocking him out. And apparently that's when they said he said they offered him the role. And he felt bad, but everyone was kind of happy also that he had done that. But yeah, everyone from, that we'll go over later, you'll see, with the exception of the character who plays Scott, most of these people were actual fighters, including the father.
Legit.
He's, had definitely some martial art, because casting ended up going to the Benny Urquidez Jet Center.
Right.
And that's where, as we'll see later on, the karate dojo that's in Seattle is the Jet Center. And so that's where they found Pete Cunningham, Dale Jacoby, I believe the brother Ian. But we'll talk about them later. But that's where they found him, was through the Jet Center, because they went and cast, and they wanted to see who all was available and who they liked and who had a good look. And but that's apparently how Van Damme was cast. But he said, that they loved him and everything. They took his number, but that he was so broke at the time. He worked with an answering service, which is where you would call and leave messages, and then the person would call and get the messages. And I saw somewhere that he said that he didn't hear anything for like nearly 6 months, and then they just kind of called him out of the blue. And but before that, I mean, he had only really ever done Monaco Forever kind of around the same time, maybe within those 6 months that he was waiting. And he had done the background work in Breakin', with right. Michelle Kesey. And I saw something that he didn't understand really what background work was, and that's why he was like so loud, like big and jumpy, and he was trying to draw this attention to himself. And it's funny, because now that he's kind of the main force,
guy.
in this, especially as kind of the villain in this film, the other fighters didn't really quite respect him or know of him, because to them he was just kind of a guy who had been an extra, and nobody knew about his credentials or his background or any of that stuff, whereas all the other guys knew of each other, and there was like all that mutual respect, because a lot of them trained together. So it's weird, which probably also added to the fact that when he was really laying in and hitting people for real, they weren't too keen on that. But that's more the Hong Kong style, to lay it in, not you're going full force, but you're connecting. And Van Damme had been to Hong Kong and had seen some of the behind the scenes on some of these movies, and he had that idea, and that's kind of why he was tagging people, not because he was trying to hurt them or he thought it was real or whatever, but he was kind of going kind of off of that Chinese Hong Kong stunt style. And I guess they shoot it much different in the States, so
right. Well, we'll get back to the movies. We're half an hour in, and we're about 6 minutes into the movie. So
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's going to be a long night, everyone. But
we'll get through it. We'll get through it. So Van Damme and Sensei Stillwell. Then what happens?
So Stillwell throws a right kick. Van Damme catches it, knees into his knee, breaks his knee. 3 kicks to the face, jumping spin kick, knocks him down. Stillwell's junior, Jason, he sees it, screams out, "You bastard!" Throws a punch behind Van Damme's back. Van Damme just casually catches it, twists his arms into a pretzel, and just stares at him. And
that's awesome.
It's just, he looks like we'll get to it later, but Van Damme looks like a proper killer in this
Absolutely.
movie.
Yeah. He, with the suit and the slicked back hair, he would have been perfect for the Tomax and Zammot, the brothers in G.I. Joe. So which is funny because later on he would do a film that was called The Corsican Brothers, and it got turned into Double Impact, where they were twins. But it was originally called The Corsican Brothers, and Zammot and Tomax and G.I. Joe and of the Cobra, they're from Corsica. So that's anyways. I'm glad that you said he doesn't beat up Jason Stillwell, but he definitely shows him, like, don't fuck with me, like, I will kill you. Yeah. Throws him down. He's like, we got to get them, they'll pay for this. He's like, no, Jason, no. It's over. Like, right in front of all the students, right? They're probably thinking, like, well, I just joined this school, god damn it, like, what the hell, now I gotta find another studio. Because his father just throws it in right there.
My sensei just got his ass kicked by a guy in the white suit.
By 3 city slickers in New York. They just came in. This guy just this is embarrassing. So he says it's over. I think he says something else too. I can't remember quite what he says, but there's nothing else to do but leave, I think is what he says. But that might be in the international cut, because then we cut to Cedars-Sinai, the hospital, and his father's laid up in this hospital bed. And I'm glad you said that he put his knee to his knee, because it clearly looked like he broke his knee. But then when you see his leg up, there's a cast around his foot and his ankle only. Yeah. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, the way that it's propped up would cause the knee to kind of, because it's just propped up. I'm like, this is the worst hospital ever. But he's sitting there and he's thinking to himself, right? And I think that's what he's...
It is California, though.
That's true. But I think and so he's sitting there thinking, and he's thinking to himself, and he's like, that was the Russian Ivan Krasinski. And it's all voiceover, right? Because it's in his head. And he's like, I think he says, like, that's when he says, there's nothing else to do but leave. And he's thinking in his head. But that's when we cut out of the family taking the Griswold road trip up to Seattle, which is funny because when you think of Seattle, you think of the Needle, and that's the opening frames of the Needle. And then you see Seattle underneath it written across the bottom. Just so you know, it's not that other city with the Space Needle.
Seattle, correct? I'm not great at my American geography. How far is Seattle from California, Los Angeles? Is it quite a trek?
Yeah, that would probably be 14, 15 hours.
Oh, so he moved then. Like he got his ass out of California. You're like, right, I'm
Yeah,
taking my family
yeah,
away from this.
yeah. Skipped Idaho, drove right through Oregon, and all the way up to Washington. He was probably trying to get to Canada.
Probably.
Yeah, but Tom Stillwell is a lethal weapon, so he's not allowed in Canada. Well, he used to be a lethal
That's true.
weapon. Now he's
Triple.
just a shadow of himself. Yeah. So they get to Seattle, and it's okay. So like 90% of this movie was shot in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
The neighborhoods, the homes, with the exception of like the Bruce Lee Cemetery and some of the stock footage of Seattle. From what I understand, they spent maybe a week in Seattle, and the rest of it, which might have been like a month or so, was all Los Angeles stuff. So, yeah, we arrive at the new house, the quaint home, and Jason's.
RJ.
Yeah, this is where we meet RJ. So, RJ Madison the Third, Rayford Jefferson Madison the Third, and who has a terrible real name. I feel bad for him because I think his real name is like JW Fails. Yeah, it's like you really got your work cut out for you, kid. Funny enough, the same year, from what I understand, '84, he was the stand-in or something for Turbo in Breakin' 2, the Electric Boogaloo for Canon.
Oh.
So there's that very odd, almost crossed paths with the Jean-Claude having done Breakin' background work several years before, or maybe the year before. Either way, he's taking out the Wing Chun dummy, and the basketball falls out, and that's where we see RJ. And but I think he goes into the dojo first, or he helps move him in? Yeah, RJ helps move him in.
As he's moving in, we see one of the funniest heels of the movie, Scott.
Yeah. Yes.
Scott's there. He's led up towards a car. He's eating a hoe cake, not a piece of cake, a hoe cake. It's all down him.
Cake. He's got a box of ding dongs and a Coke. So he's really,
a Bruce Lee freak. Just what this episode was it?
Kingswood. Bruce Lee freak. All Kingswood needs. Why me? And he smears the biggest chocolate smear across his face, like nothing. He throws some of the cake too. Yeah, he's literally a big heel. So yeah, and RJ is cool. He shows up. He catches the basketball. He's like, yes. He's got the boom box, and he's showing some moves with the basketball, and very 80s moment here. Very 80s indeed. One of the things that always kind of bugged me on the edit was when Jason goes into the dojo, or like the garage, and starts setting up his equipment, and he throws the punching ball over the rope, and he attaches it right in front of him, and then he pulls it down, and then like the next shot it's like right here. So I'm thinking, like, I hope he just kind of threw it around the pole a few times.
Yeah, again.
So that it's right. Yeah, because he literally like clips it and just pulls it down, and then it just cuts to it being like right here. And why he wanted to get all Tarzan-y on the step or on the shelves, I have no idea. But we see that gag where he falls down, and then RJ obviously comes and helps him carry the Wing Chun dummy in, and you get a little bit more of an extended breakdance scene here in the international as well. So, whereas I think
the shelves they collapse, and then he pushes Jason away, and he starts doing the spinneroonie on the floor.
Yeah, he really does. The best one of its kind. Yeah, easily. So, yeah, RJ, he was legit, and then I think I want to say on the international cut, we cut to, or he talks about it, and he's like, "Oh, you're into Bruce Lee," and that's where we start. That's where we really kind of, I mean, aside from knowing the mannerisms and sounds that Jason makes in that opening karate scene, imitating Bruce Lee. This is where we really see, him say like, yeah, he's like my hero, and I want to be just like him. And RJ says, hey, I know where he's buried. He's buried around here. Like I'll take you over there. And I've been to that cemetery in Seattle. That was something I made a point to do when I went to Seattle. Actually, Jimmy Yang Wang and I, we went to the cemetery and saw Bruce Lee and Brandon Lee's gravestones. And that's one of the things that's obviously it shows the times that, for this film, when we do get to the cemetery and we see the Bruce Lee grave, it's sad because the Brandon one isn't there, so it's just Bruce, and that's, it's different. So they agree to go to the cemetery. Then we, again, on the international cut, we get some more setup of Scott, who's the big portly bully of Kingswood, and he's sitting there blasting cans with a power washer or something. He's supposed to be washing the windows, and his dad comes out and yells at him, and Scott's like, yes, daddy. Calls him daddy. It's really strange. I'm not kidding. And that character, Scott, Kent Liffin, Kent Lipham, it might be Lipham, but Lipham, who, funny enough, like a few years later, I want to say, I guess this was produced in '84, like 6 years later in 1990, he was in a film a lot of people probably would never have heard of, called Across the Tracks, which starred a young Brad Pitt. So,
yes.
And Ricky Schroeder, Brad Pitt and Ricky Schroeder are brothers from opposite ends of the tracks who reunite, and there's a track. I think they become track athletes and compete against each other. Anyways, he went on and was in that movie, but other than that, he hadn't really done a whole lot. Unless you're a fan of Bikini Summer.
A lot of the actors from this movie didn't do a lot afterwards. Like, safe to say, Van Damme had the best career out of all of them, but a lot of these actors didn't do much after.
Jean-Claude certainly had the greatest career cinematically, from like a features standpoint, a movie star, blockbuster standpoint. But Kurt McKinney, very, very experienced TV actor. Like he was in General Hospital a few years after this, and he did like 133 episodes of General Hospital. I mean, he was a series regular there, and then in Guiding Light later on. But he continuously worked, and I read that in an interview where he was saying, like, I came out to be an actor, not so much to be a martial arts, megastar. And Jean-Claude's thing was like, I came out here to be a martial arts megastar. But apparently those two got along quite a lot on set. So, and it's not to say Jean-Claude had just a bunch of enemies on set. It was probably mainly just the Benny Urquidez guys who, he kept beating up, and Tim Baker.
Well, the next scene, like you said, Scott is blowing the cans. RJ comes around the corner. Scott proceeds skateboarding. Scott squirts him with the jet wash and proceeds to chase them. And he's chasing them, and they come across the sidewalk. Wants getting some work done it. RJ provokes him, says, "Jump over it, fat boy." And the two workers like, "Yeah, go on, Bob, fat boy, do it." Scott proceeds. He jumps the barricade. Fair play to him. But unfortunately for him, RJ slides in the skateboard. Scott lands on the skateboard and falls on his ass.
Yeah,
that was a nasty bump.
And that was one of those comedic little scenes. That's a very Hong Kong, has a Hong Kong taste to it. Like a little haha there, just to make the bad guy, to give you a moment to laugh at the bad guy and to enrage him more. Because we never in the U.S. version or the theatrical version, the cut that you saw, the faster version, that's
cut completely.
Yeah, it's completely out of it. And later on, we'll get to there in a little bit, but when, they're at the burger time, and he's like, "Why do you hate that kid so much?" "I got my reasons." You can tell that he didn't like him long before this. So there's kind of been an ongoing kind of feud between these two. But RJ's probably always tried to prevail and take the better road. But here he throws the skateboard under him, and they laugh at him. So that just adds fuel to the fire. He then shows up to take Jason to the cemetery. He's all wet. And Jason's got the suit or the tie and shirt on and the flowers. He's very respectful. He's going to go see his sensei. And he sits there and basically lays it down. Says, he's Jason Stillwell from Los Angeles. He came there to be a great martial artist just like him. And he helps, basically just gives a prayer, to the Bruce Lee resting place. And, I did the same thing.
It's amazing to think that Bruce Lee was like 32 when he passed away. I'm like, wow, I'm 33. I outlived Bruce Lee. I was like, it's just amazing how young he actually was when he passed away.
Yeah, I mean, that could be said for a lot of people, stars, that you think of. It's weird too, because you always in your head think of them as older than you. Which
yeah, I still do.
They are, but you've already outlived them, and it's sad. But yeah, I mean, so this really sets the tone here. Him idolizing Bruce Lee, and I think anybody who's ever dabbled in martial arts or even just been a fan of martial arts had similar ideas. Similar. They idolized Bruce Lee, and they either made sounds like Bruce Lee and tried to mimic him. I mean, is there a more mimicked fighter? Is there a more anybody who's had as massive an impact on the world of martial arts as Bruce Lee? I don't think so.
Well, oh no. Well, next thing, like you said, it's the burger bar joint, and you
burger
got the one friend with a weird braided ponytail look. Not a great look.
Yeah, they bring this tray of burgers, and they start chomping down. And this was always one of my favorite lines, because Scott just digs into this massive burger, and he's like burping while he's eating. And before that, he's like, "Stick with me, guys. You'll never go hungry." He starts eating it. Sees RJ, starts cramming down the hamburger. I'm like, why do you hate that kid? It's that slime ball, RJ. Why do you hate that kid so much? I got my reasons. All I ask, don't let him go anywhere. He does the like.
Yeah. It's not a great look. It's like 8 white guys beating on the black guy. And he said, "I've got my reasons." I'm like, well, Scott, please tell us your reasons, because at this minute you sound like a fucking racist.
And he power washed him, like just a few moments before. He power washed him, It's pretty bad. But you really, going back to the braided ponytail guy, when I think this was kind of clipped in the international, but in the US, UK theatrical, however we're looking at the good version, you do get, as it pans out and you see RJ being surrounded by these thugs, the braided ponytail guy has a very
oh, he's got a great pose.
It's so good.
Effeminate is the word.
Yeah. He draws all the attention right there. It's really good.
He made the most of his screen time. He really did. He stood out. He's like, I'm growing this ponytail.
Yeah.
And
that's so true.
So Scott gets him. Let's be honest, Scott's kicking RJ's ass. He's got this weird thing where he's got RJ arms on the railing and he just keeps swinging his legs.
Well, I love that. And I also love when he throws him onto the table and he goes to approach him and RJ goes to kick him and he does a little belly bump and it sends RJ flying off the table.
Like the blob out of X-Men.
Yeah, it's so good.
Jason sees it, jumps it, pushes the one guy out of the way, jumps over the railing, kicks Scott, saves RJ. He proceeds to say to Scott, "Who's the lard ass?"
Kicks Scott across the table. He slides across the table and falls on the other side. Who's the lard ass? You better beat it, Brucey. Go home and play with your wooden dolly.
Take a walk, fat boy. It's just such a simple insult.
Yeah.
And they do the back-to-back pose, and this is where the title of the movie gets said by RJ, "No retreat, no surrender." And what's
Yeah,
the funniest thing? Within seconds of him saying that, the
they
burger bar
retreat.
owner steps out and they start retreating. And
That's pretty good.
Scott takes the fall for it.
That's right. I'm gonna kill you. I think he threatens to kill him. I think right here.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
that's pretty nuts. I think in the faster version, they cut to them watching the karate tournament where we see Ian Riley, but in the longer version, we see Jason get home. His father can tell that his shirt's ripped somehow, and
well,
he's been
is it?
fighting.
Yeah, I was watching it and I'm like, is it Rip? Because like
Yeah, it was hard to
to look
tell.
at
Like,
all.
how does he know? How does he know he's been fighting? Yeah, that was kind of the look then.
Well, yeah, because he's wearing the same gear. Yeah, he's wearing the same shirt after the fight. And I mean, let's be honest, there wasn't a glove touched on Stillwell, so he must have been immaculate. So how
Might have
did
been
he
from
know? And
RJ.
possibly RJ's mother or Scott's father, possibly snitched on him. But that was probably
Maybe.
why it was. That was probably why it was cut from the American version because, oh yeah, well, I don't know if it looks like it's slightly ripped, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah,
like
he didn't get hit or anything.
his
His
father
father
like
just
laid into
lays
him as
into
soon
him.
as he
Yeah.
came into him,
You've been
and he's
fighting
got like
again.
and he's got like a really short walking cane. It's like up to his knee, and I'm like, that looks like that's gonna do more damage to your back and to your knee than walking without it.
His leg's already fucked. I mean, the way that he was hanging in the hospital and it's just them not even putting a cast around his whole leg, just the ankle. Yeah, it's bad. He doesn't have good judgment.
This is the worst dialogue in the movie.
It's pretty good.
Easily. I don't think you
Yeah.
know who house is this. It's my house too. It's your house when you start paying the rent. Now go to your room. And
Yes. So
oh, my
good.
powers, my powers gun. This I'm gonna have to put my power on. This is because I condemned Timothy D. Baker.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The ghost of he's still alive, I think.
He's still like, let me give you two.
So he gets
Yeah,
sent to his room. It's pretty funny. He gets on the bed and he's like frustrated. You know, this is long before cell phones and electronics, except Walkmans. We'll get to that in a second. Um, but he's on his bed and he's just like and he starts like looking at the different Bruce Lee posters on his wall, and there's very dramatic da-na-na, da-na-na, da-na, like this music. It's bad, but that's
it's
channeling it.
well. Then he storms into his garage and he starts pounding on the bag.
Yeah. Yeah, after he just disobeys his father again, like, screw you, sensei, Stillwell, I'm going to the garage. That's also my room, by the way. Starts wailing on the bag with such rage, just picturing his stupid father. And
We
then,
see
yeah.
we see a fight. It's Sensei Riley. He's having a fight in the tournament and proceeds to pound on this guy, kicks his ass. I noticed in the far shots he looks blonde. Like
I don't know why, if that's the case, because this guy was a legit fighter. He was like a local champion in LA. What's his name? Ron Pownell.
Yeah,
And
something like that.
I think from what I've read, he sparred, trained, and all that under Chuck Norris, or he had some affiliation with Chuck Norris. Which again makes it weird because really early on, so did Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude Van Damme was also a
That's right.
one-time training and sparring partner, workout kind of another body with Chuck Norris and Ken Norton, and some of that footage on YouTube. So it makes me wonder if Ron Pownell had a kind of a jealousy of Jean-Claude's techniques and things like that, and just tried to pass him off as like, well, he's only been an extra, as if this guy had had some big acting career
Yeah.
But we'll get to this. I'll let you know what I found out later when we get to their
Right.
scene. But yeah, we see him. I always thought he was a dork. Like I never liked this character because he was such a nerd.
Yeah.
He's like more of a cheerleader. He's doing the spin kick, and it's just like,
My favorite is the interview. You got the
oh,
guy. You got the guy in the red shirt and the white blazer, white vest, interviewing him. He's talking in his normal voice when he's got the mic to him. Then he gives the mic to Riley. I forgot his first name's Ian, I
Ian.
think.
Yeah,
Ian
Ian.
gives the mic to Ian Riley. Yeah, it's great to be a champion. And the mic is still with Ian, but the interviewer is talking, and it's no different to when he had the mic next to him. So it's like
Yeah.
there's no fucking point in having that mic.
The sound.
That,
The sound. Yeah.
this is one of my pet peeves of this film, and this is in both versions as well. So we'll see Kelly in a minute, which is Jason's girlfriend. Now you would think that this karate obsessed guy who's dating his girlfriend would know that his girlfriend's brother is like an international karate star or a national karate star, but he doesn't have a clue. I'm like, I thought, for example, if I was dating a girl, and if my brother was a karate thing and she was obsessed with karate, it'd be something I would mention. I'd be like, oh, my brother's a karate master, blah blah
Right.
blah. It would be something you would mention, wouldn't you, in a relationship? And
You would think
apparently
so.
it didn't.
I mean, but it makes you think maybe it was just kind of a summer fling. I see later on it's revealed that like they met over the summer, so they may not have been like a full on girlfriend type thing. It's weird too because in the international cut,
Well, she was just a booty call then.
well, in the international cut, he just appears at her birthday party, but you don't.
Yeah.
You're like, what? That's his girlfriend, or they're together. Like weird. But in the shorter version, they had added, I think, the scene where the mom's like, "There's someone here to see you," and he's like, "I don't want to see your friends or something." Or he gets upset for some reason. This is before he goes to the party, but we see Kelly.
Well, he's upset because the next scene here is when he goes to the dojo.
That's right. Okay, that's right. So we go to the dojo.
Right.
Cool.
Right, everyone, some connection issues, but we're back on track. But with the magic of editing, you'll never know, except that Paul's got a new background.
That's right. Oh, that's so good. So where we last left off, we were just entering Ian Riley's martial arts school because RJ's like, hey, I know where that is. Like, I'll take you over there tomorrow. And they show up, and I as far as I could tell, this was the Jet Center, the Benny Urquidez Jet Center, where they found. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the class that he joins is an actual class or just students. They were all students there, but yeah, it goes and shows up, and RJ's with them every step of the way, like a good friend. And one of the things I always thought was really, he really is. He really is.
He's the greatest friend ever.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. Which makes you think, why is he always by himself if he's not with Jason? Well, I guess later on we'll see he's got some other friends. It's funny because this is where we meet Dean.
Dean's a baby face to begin with, isn't he?
At first, yeah, he shows up and he seems like, but see, I think he has to be because he's trying to gain business. He's trying to gain students, especially since he's the assistant instructor while Ian's out at a big tournament. And so I've never visited or audited a martial arts school where I just brought my own stuff all of a sudden. And then they were like, oh, class starts in about 10 minutes. So you should join that. That's never, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but that was always something that I thought like, man, they're really throwing him in the fire. But I always like that line where he's looking around. He's like, this is a pretty nice dojo. Yeah, I'll probably join, just setting himself up for failure.
You see Scott
turning in the bag. when he's like hiding behind the bag. And that's another one of those in the international cut where it's like dun dun dun,
That's
like the
right. Yeah.
music's like very like, oh my god, who's the killer? Um, so yeah, we see Scott. He goes and embellishes on his recent encounter, and this was another. This movie is very quotable. Like that's
Mm.
one of the things that I absolutely love about it. And I think a lot of people do as well. They love how quotable it is. But here was another one of those wonderful little bits that I still to this day do from time to time with certain people. Where I'm like, he's like, who is that guy? There's a new student. Why? I had a run-in with that guy. What'd y'all fight about? Oh well, he was talking real bad about Seattle karate. Yeah, talking about how good LA karate is. He said he was from Los Angeles. Yeah, why? Yeah, that's when he's like, he was talking real bad about Seattle karate. And then, but there's a few quotable things in here because he's like,
Dean looks really
not
pissed as well.
immediately, and he's like, no, I didn't want to fight him, but he started pushing me around. I didn't know what to do or say. Then he says something. He's like, yeah,
Fights good, but he fights dirty.
yeah, he's good, but he fights dirty. But the one that was most quotable was he's like, oh yeah, did this, that. There's like no markings on his arm at
No,
all,
except
right?
from
He's
the
just like
forehead.
wearing, yeah, that's bleeding or something.
It's still bleeding.
Um,
It must be like
yeah,
2 days later.
didn't get hit in the head at all. Yeah, that one's really funny. His dad probably did that. It's sad. Um, so then we meet who, from all estimations, is the most respected fighter um, on the set, which would be Pete Cunningham, who plays Frank. I think he
Sugarfoot.
was like Sugarfoot. Yeah, he was like a,
Great nickname.
and he appeared later in I think Deathmatch and another film also with um, was it Sean Jacoby or whatever, the Dean character
Um,
again?
like
Dale.
I've just thrown the IMDb really quickly. It's only showing you a couple of movies, but
He's
he
in The
says he's
Fighter.
in I Spy, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, The Fighter,
Eh,
and The
The
Human Stain.
Fighter. But he had like a name in The Fighter. Like he was, I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch it, but I saw that. And I thought like, now that's a big deal.
That's the
If he
Mark
was one of the
Wahlberg,
fighters. Yeah, Christian Bale.
Christian Bale one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, boxing movie. So yeah, yeah, he and Dale Jacoby appear in two other movies. It's Deathmatch and maybe Ring of Fire 2 or something. I'm not really sure, but um, either which way, highly respected actor, fighter, I should say, martial artist, but decent actor too. I thought he was pretty good. I
Yeah.
like that. I ain't nobody's lunch. Because obviously we see Dean set up a impromptu sparring match, hoping to embarrass Jason Stillwell. And he's from Los Angeles, and he wants our best, and you're our best. Now be careful, if you slip up, he's gonna eat you up. I ain't nobody's lunch. And then, but real early, you can see it's like he knows Jason's not on his level, and so he's not murdering him. He even kind of wants to like stop. And then Dean's like, "What are you waiting for? Fight!" Jason gets embarrassed. Scott's rolling, laughing this whole time. And then again, like you
RJ's
said,
like
RJ,
RJ's reaction.
Jason,
Jason,
stop.
stop! Like he was being killed. He was pretty
Yeah,
controlled.
it was great. And then he hops up and he bows. And one of the things I really liked was when he
Later, bro.
bows and he's like, "Later, bro." Frank actually bows. Like he does kind of a bow as well. And I thought, such a professional. So Jason gets embarrassed. This is where in the theatrical, the better, smoother version, he goes home and he's pissed off, and his mom's like, "Now you come back in here and you say hello." And he's like, "Kelly," and that's where we see that they were actually a couple.
Yeah.
And then they go on this kind of tour of Seattle, little stock footage, their dates. They visit the tower. This is where Kelly puts over the bunny that she sees in the pet store.
That's right.
Because otherwise, in the international cut, all of this is not in the movie. You just would
No.
see Jason showing up or getting ready, and then he shows up at this birthday party, which is really funny, and he just starts making out with the birthday girl. But this is where we also see a little bit of Dean as a dick, because he's like, "You're the only girl I want to pest."
Because in the American version as well, like after the date scene, it shows Jason's dad working at the bar, and there's the drunk.
Yes.
And it might show up in this version, but I don't think it does. I might be wrong, but
it's in both, where he's serving the beer or he's playing pool, and the guy's like, "Hey, give me another," and he puts it on the bar. "Bring it over here." That guy has some quotable lines too. No, no, no. Bring it over here. He's like, his dad's just like spineless at this point, right? I'll limp over there. Comes around. What is this I hear? You used to teach karate? It was a long time ago. Answer the question or something. And then he tries to walk away. You'll go when I say you can go, karate man. That's like so many good quotes in this one little scene.
Yeah. Proceeds to throw him out the bar, and
I'll be back.
To the party.
You'll see.
Yeah. And then after.
So he gets to the party. We see Dean with his bros. We see Kelly with her friends.
The girl in the tiny bikini top.
Yeah, so 80s, right? Yep. And then
and awesome.
It's great. This is where we see Dean's more trying to get Kelly to be his girl, and she's not having any part of it. Jason shows up. The funny thing is here, okay, so in the international cut, Ian, her brother, shows up having just arrived from the tournament. He's got the trophy. I can't remember if that was in the smoother cut or not. I feel like it's was.
In the smoother cut, but in the smoother cut, so the when you see Dean talking to his friends, you don't see that. You automatically see Scott jumping into the pool. Okay. And then it plays out the same in both. Well, except for that there's a scene.
How does he leave that scene, though? He shows up with the trophy. He's like, this is for you, sister.
That's in both, yeah.
Right. But then how does Ian leave the scene? Because initially in the international, he gets the phone call. And it's like, if you want, and it's the gangster, the agent, and they're threatening him. And it's like, you better show up at the dojo or something. So he's like, I got to take this. Excuse me. And he leaves. Did he take a phone call in the smoother version? I can't remember.
I can't remember, but I know that in the smoother cut, because in the international cut, he bumps into Jason on his way out.
Oh, he doesn't just bump into him. He like belly bumps him. And Jason's holding this wrapped gift that's like a rabbit in a box covered in paper. Like completely. I'm like, did you crush the rabbit? What's this? Ian's careless.
Crazy thing about Ian's the way he's got his hands around his sister's waist. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, he's a creep. But Kelly, your second favorite actor in this movie,
she's
Kathy Soleno
as well.
This is the only movie she's done, from what I could see on her IMDb.
I couldn't find her on social media at all. Because if hopefully the channel grows, everyone, please hit the subscribe button and like button if you're enjoying it. But hopefully we can get guests on and perhaps even get like cast reunions, something special like that. Like especially for this movie, you never know. So, but yeah, like I try to look for her on social media, and like she's a ghost. Like you said, I think this is pretty much the only movie she ever done, and she's pretty in the eyes, but she ain't a great actress.
No, she leaves a lot to be desired. So they show up, they start making out just as Scott's going to the bathroom or something, and he sees Dean, and Dean's like, it's my girl. And this sets up the latter half of the party where they all kind of start ganging up on him. Scott throws the drink in his back and tries to like turn around. Like, hey, where'd that come from? such a jerk off. And then Dean's kind of directing it, and he flicks the cake at him. He's like, back off or something. And he does the push, and Scott's crawling on the ground. He's on all fours, right, to fall back over. Yeah. Sorry, what were you gonna say? I love this scene.
I love how Scott is like the white belt, but he's kind of like the mastermind of this plot, and he's telling the black belt what to do.
Yeah, he's like those typical kiss ass guys who think that, you know, if they hang out and are kind of accepted as the lackey clown of the group, then they're just as high a rank as those guys. That's my guess. But he's just, kind of a kiss ass, right?
Yeah.
Great job, Sensei. And all this. Welcome back. All that kind of crap. And then
pretty good. The scene when Ian goes to, I guess it's his dojo, but I don't remember.
Yeah, it's back at his dojo, which I don't know how these guys got into his school. Yeah. And are just hanging out there. But it's not Jean-Claude. It's another guy, another older guy.
Got like a gun on him.
Yeah. So they're hanging out there. Well, we see. I guess we cut to that negotiating, and then when we cut back and see Jason get beat up. Basically, they're saying, "Look, like you're going to join our school," or "Oh yeah, today's your sister's birthday, isn't it? How old is she? Oh, 17. Well, I hope she has a real good birthday." So basically, threatening to take things further, escalating things if Ian doesn't comply. And he has just the worst facials at the end of this scene when they walk off, and he's like, it's like, Jesus, this guy, he's not good. Then we cut back to the party. They start ganging up on him. Cake. Actually, we did see that cannonball earlier from Scott, right? When he was like, "Who peed in the poo?"
That's right, yeah. But Jason confronts Dean. They have a fight, and Dean just kicks his ass.
Yeah,
punch the stomach, roundhouse kick,
flies over the table,
over the party table.
It's like a double punch. He's like, or something. Yeah, it's like some sort of a double punch, spin kick, flies over the table, then puts his neck on the chair, on the legs of the table. She's like, Dean, stop! You hear that, punk? She knows who's the best.
Yeah. Very, like you said, it's very quotable, this movie. Like, so many scenes. Every scene there's a quote.
Pretty much.
Kelly slaps
Jason
Dean.
runs off. Yeah, slaps Dean. Jason runs off. She's like, I had no idea. Yeah, right. Just leave me alone. And then he runs off.
Drives off.
Get out of here. Yeah, drives
Jason,
off.
Don't do it. What, driving home?
What are you doing?
And
there's
the thing with the international cut, though. He has flashbacks to what literally just happened a couple of minutes ago.
I think that's understandable. I think that's pretty reasonable. Like anytime you've had some kind of traumatic situation, you're sitting there and you're kind of thinking like, what could you have done differently just now? Oh my God, like I can't believe that just happened. I like that. Right. I think that works, because it's showing just how enraged he is and how just embarrassed and like he just feels like everything's falling apart. And I think those are moments that make the Jason character so relatable, to especially any young guy or young person who's been bullied or embarrassed, when they were just there innocently, and it sucks, it sucks. We've all been in that Jason Stillwell rage department before.
And he doesn't go to his parents, he goes to Bruce Lee's grave asking for advice.
Yeah. That's a real heartfelt moment, actually. He in the international cut,
basically. This is like him at his worst.
And this is one of my, I don't think the better version, the smoother version, the shorter version, I don't think it had this double line in it, but on the international cut, he gets there and he's like, Sensei, he's like, I need help. And he says, Sensei Lee, you have to help me. And then goes, I've got no place else to go. No one but you. No one but you. And I'm like, that's a good double liner, you know. But he's really pleading to this gravestone,
Oh yeah.
And he leaves, and I think this is where he goes and
His
is
dad's
this where
waiting
he
at the
gets?
doorstep for
Yeah,
him.
his dad's just waiting. He's just waiting. His dad is, you know, he works the night shift at the bar, I guess, or the morning shift.
That's depressing. Not even
Yeah,
the popular time.
no. Shows up. They get into the big argument again. That's when he's like, "Farting is gonna ruin your life. Look what it did to my ankle, shin, knee." Um, and this is where he rips the Bruce Lee poster in the garage. No.
Oh, that kills him.
Yeah. So this is when he takes off. And who else? Who else are you gonna call? Your best friend, your only friend, RJ. Shows
I
up at
love it how
RJ's
he gets
place.
RJ's notice because he runs to his fence. RJ, and he's tapping on the gate on the fence.
RJ sleeps outside.
RJ's living in the garden.
He's on the patio
He comes up over
with
the
his.
fence. And he's got his hairnet on.
It's like it's not even a
He's having a
hairnet.
shower in the garden
Yeah, yeah. And the funny
with the
thing
hose
is,
pipe.
he knocks on the fence and he's yelling for RJ, and then RJ
He's
pops
not even
over.
yelling.
He's not even no, but he's not
RJ.
even. Yeah, but RJ pops his head over and he's not even looking at him. He's like, "Hey, Jason, what are you doing here?" It's a very Sesame Street moment right there. Very Sesame Street. RJ's like, "Hey, man, you don't have anywhere. Like, you need somewhere to crash. I know an abandoned house." Somehow RJ gets this truck. He's like, "RJ will provide." And he goes and helps him move all the stuff in. Actually, he doesn't even help him because he's like, I got to get going, and my old man's going to be pissed. He's like, yeah, me too. But Jason sticks around if they move everything into this abandoned house, puts up the poster, the dummy, everything, even lights some candles. Very romantic. And
That's not a fire hazard.
we get some more Coca-Cola product placement right here,
Oh,
which is
yeah, you
always
noticed that
fun.
as well.
Yeah, that's always fun. And then as he's about to leave, we get the movie title one more time. They do they clap, and they're like, no retreat, no
No
surrender.
surrender.
That's right. And then it was like interesting. I like the thing that they did with the lighting. I mean, it looked like the house was being invaded by like an alien spaceship, but it's just like lights everywhere. And then all of a sudden, Bruce Lee's ghost comes through the thing, you know?
Is it
And it's
so?
funny.
Is it the ghost, or is it Jason's got a concussion from the beatdown and he's imagining it?
It could be a combination of both, I think. Yeah, but I mean, but it has to be the spirit of Bruce Lee, right? Because Jason just doesn't train himself and become amazing all of a sudden. And then we'll see later, RJ shows back up and he's like seeing Jason talking to Lee Degas, and ends up getting like kicked through the door, you know,
Yeah,
onto RJ. But it's funny, the actor who played the Sensei Lee, Kim Tai Chong, he's Korean, so he didn't speak any English, and obviously Kurt McKinney didn't speak any Korean. So Kurt McKinney was saying all his lines. Obviously, the Sensei Lee character is dubbed over, um, but I mean, he didn't know any English, so I imagine they had someone off camera reading his lines as well.
yeah.
Um, but he was one of the replacement actors for Bruce Lee when he died during the making of Game of Death. You know, I think
Right.
he, along with maybe Bruce Lee, was another one. And then Kim Tai Chong did another Bruceploitation film after this. And then he was also in Game of Death 2, Tower of Death. So they at least picked someone in the wheelhouse. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Even though I didn't think he looked anything like Bruce Lee personally. I
I was
always
about to
thought that
ask
was
that. I don't think he looked anything like Bruce Lee at all. Probably similar hairstyle, but that was pretty much it.
pretty much it. Yeah, maybe the same tan. Um, but either way, it's serviceable, and you get the idea. So I guess their idea was we want it to be the spirit teaching them, not like another actual human being, like the
Yeah,
Miyagi to Daniel-san kind of relationship. They wanted it to be more of like the ghost, and that makes me think that in a way, like this could be considered a Bruce exploitation film. You know, it really could.
yeah, it can be. Yeah,
Um, you know, and a lot of people do consider it that. So, you know, I think that's just a matter of opinion. I think it is personally, and I guess there was some issues with the Bruce Lee estate who came down on this film and had them take out certain shots and really do a different dub, like voiceover kind of thing, in order to not be so exact. And but you still see shots of Bruce Lee's books, that
yeah.
Jason's trying to teach himself from and things like that. I had a few of those books myself. So, so his ghost shows up and starts training him. This is everything he asked for and wished for at the cemetery. And you see another product placement here with Diet Coke. So it's interesting because this is when he pours out the glass. He's like, "This is all of your knowledge." And he pours the Diet Coke and he's like, "This is all my knowledge." Pour it in. He's like, "Lidega." And he's like, throws out the water. "I will pour all my knowledge into you." And so, yeah,
Do you want
it's pretty.
names?
No, I've always thought, I was like, what is he
Big
saying?
Brother Lee.
Really?
Yeah,
Big Brother Lee. That's pretty funny.
I just discovered that
Wow.
very recently while researching.
I always thought, I was like, I'd never heard that before. And I thought, why is he calling him that? It's so stupid. But I guess that it's still kind of silly. Big Brother Lee. Why wouldn't you just say Master, or something?
Yeah. So we see a training montage. He's got the ankle weights on. He's doing press ups on the park bench. Clearly, he hasn't got a gym membership, so he's going AT style. He's training at the park. No kids around, so he picked up a good
Now,
park.
in the theatrical version, the smoother version, do we see RJ with his Walkman eating a chocolate bar sitting on top of RJ's pelvic
That
region,
scene. We don't
or
see
sitting on
that
top
scene.
of Jason? Okay, so yeah, there's this shot in the international cut where Jason's got his head on a bench and his feet on the
Legs on
side of
like a
on the
bar or
yeah,
something.
something, and he's doing these pelvic thrusts. But at first we see it's RJ's face with headphones on up to a Walkman, and he's eating like a chocolate bar, just happy as can
He's
be.
enjoying that
He's going
chocolate
going
bar.
up
Like,
and down. Yeah, and we see that it's Jason doing these pelvic thrusts. And RJ just happens to be sitting like right on his crotch. It's weird. It's a weird shot. Very weird shot. But it's the start of these training montages, which I think are also what makes this film so classic.
hmm. There's a
The
few
training.
different montages. Like there's him training at the park, and then it's intersplicing with him training with Bruce Lee, like in between,
Right.
and showing him.
He's doing the
There's
coils,
the
the
coils,
springs.
which
Yeah.
at first he's struggling, then by the time he's finished, he's going full pelt on
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Great, great training montage. Well, there's the pelvic thrust.
Well,
I'm watching it as we're recording.
oh, nice. Well, I think what makes the training montages so good is like you clearly see the improvement, up until the
Oh
point where
yeah,
you see RJ looking at the stopwatch. He's like, "Oh man, I think something broken with this watch." Outruns
well,
him.
this is the thing. What I enjoy about this movie, and I compare it to today's heroes. Now, one of my favorite franchises, if not my favorite, I love Star Wars. I love the original trilogy. I like the prequels, not as good as the originals because the originals are masterclass. I hate the sequels with a passion. I've
Sure.
watched each film once. I will not watch them again. I consider them bad fan fiction. And
Yeah.
the main character is Rey. And I'm not just saying it because she's a woman. It's just the character. She's got no faults at all. She's perfect. She beats the bad guys in the first one, like the evil bad guy, Kylo Ren, who's been a Sith for like many years. she beats him. It's the first time she picked up a lightsaber, and I'm being serious. And there's no faults, but when you watch this film and like many other action films from the past, you see Jason's got faults. You see he's not that great, even though he's been doing karate and he states I've been doing karate for a couple of years. He's still only a red belt. Gets the shit kicked out of him not once but twice three times to this point. Van Damme, Frank, and Dean, all three of them kicked his ass. You see the progression, you see him becoming better, and the struggles what he does, and that's what I love about 80s and like these movies montages because it's a thing called character development. You don't see it in today's movies at all.
That's right. Character arc. You see the improvement. You see the growth. Yeah, it's part of what makes it so motivating and inspiring for people. You know, and they want to do their training montage. If it worked for him, I know it'll work for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely, you know, it's not Rocky IV level training montage, but it's also not the same budget at all. You know, I mean, I didn't see a number on the budget, but it had to be in the hundreds of thousands. You know, I did see somewhere, and I don't have the exact source, but I did see a Jean-Claude written bit where he apparently said he made $250 for this film.
Wow.
Total, yeah. So
I think the total gross on it was about 4 mil.
4 million. So it was massive success. And they were signed on for 1 and 2, you know, but we'll get to that at some other point. Jean-Claude and Kurt McKinney were both signed on to do the sequel, which Corey Yuen also directed, but that goes in a completely different direction, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Yeah, so we're training, we're going through all the different montages. And then from here on your version.
Well, that's where we see the bar scene.
That's right. And it's a great, great scene. The bad guy's waiting for the father as he empties the trash.
Oh no, this is the earlier bar scene. So when he chucks the original guy out. So this scene only just comes into it now, whereas in the American version, it's many scenes ago.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Keep in mind the international version's the one that's fresh in my head.
Yeah, so it goes from there. It goes into the final scene. We see Jason with Bruce, and he's got these leg in the hoop. So I've seen that Kurt McKinney, Jason Stillwell, did not want to do that scene, and the director said, "No, you're doing it," and he managed to do it.
Was there a reason he didn't want to do it? Because he didn't think he could do it, or what?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a pretty difficult sort of move when you look at it, but he done it, and
he was a black belt. He was a black belt at this point. Taekwondo. Yeah, so 22 years old.
But he does it, and Bruce was like, "Right, he's done now." So Bruce walks through the light, and then he goes back to heaven. And
that's another double line right there, where he's like, "I did it." He was Lidiga, I did it.
Yep.
I did it. He does the double liner. Did it. I did it.
And then his theme hits with a final montage.
There's also the scene where it's great. Great song.
I'll splice it in, everyone.
At the end of his montage of all of it, he's doing the spin kicks. I guess him kicking that bag open was legit too. Like that
wasn't planned
at all. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So do your montages, kids.
Yeah. He's eating a chalk ice. Jay is eating.
The chalk ice.
The short shorts do not help this scene at all.
No, or the pelvic thrusts, or the location of where RJ couldn't be sitting anywhere. I guess maybe on his feet, but yeah. And Jason would be joining his father with the cane.
Jason's just a master at this point with like the wooden man, the coils, and RJ's on the bike and Jason's out sprinting him. So yeah, he's just, that's it. The spin kicks for the bags, that's a great scene. Like I said, the one bag split open, that wasn't planned. And
love that.
he's dodging all of them, and he looks like Ryu out of Street Fighter. He's got the red bandana
Yeah,
on. He's
he would have
wearing
been a
white,
good Ryu. Absolutely.
and
apparently he
then
showed
he
up
goes to
late to the audition. Like that audition I was
yeah,
talking about, that had like the big casting call. Um he had auditioned, or he had sent in his materials, didn't hear anything, and then they saw, like, a buddy of his told him about the open call, and he was hanging out at the pool or something, and so that he looked up, and I think the whole thing was wrapping up at like 4:30, and he showed up at like around 4 and had some issues with the security guard there, who was like, "No, they're just about done. Like, there's no point in you going in there. I think they're just looking for the lead." That's, excuse me, the only thing they haven't.
yeah, because the audition, and then they just gave him
Yeah,
to
yeah,
him.
he showed up, and he said they pretty much offered it to him on the spot after his audition. He was there for like an hour and a half doing all the training and exercises and sparring. They brought him into the back room and said, "We'd like you to be Jason Stillwell."
And that leads us to the next scene, the outside the bar in the backyard. Stillwell Senior is confronted by the guy throughout. You'll never mess with me again. He's the worst actor in the movie. Well, the first scene he was great. This scene, not so much.
Oh, he's great in this scene. No, he's great. And then there's that other guy who's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
The guy in the black shirt is Keith Strandberg, the writer.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just watching it now with the way he faults over the cat. So Jason's dad's getting the shit kicked out of him. Jason arrives, Dad, and he jumps over the faults over the car and
Yeah, he
jumps over
does
the
a somewhat like
fence
a
and
front roll.
yeah, and just kicks everyone's ass. Basically, he's a machine at this point.
Dad, sometimes there's just times you gotta fight.
Yeah.
There's the line in the international cut where his dad's like, "I've been such a fool."
I'm very proud of you, son.
I've been such
That's
a
great
fool.
stuff. And
I haven't exactly
they go to
helped.
the nightclub or the disco. Is it disco or nightclub?
Sure. Yeah, RJ and his homies. This is pretty cool
Well, it's
scene though. Some good breakdancing.
yeah, it's an entertainment complex. Tennessee Gin and Cotton, Ted Qualix, backgammon, food. They do everything in this place.
Sounds
It
awesome.
looks like a
Is it
lodge
still up?
from the outside.
It might be.
But RJ's attire, very Michael Jackson, same as the two dancers, very Michael Jackson.
It was Thriller night, I think, at the club that
Yeah.
Kelly just happens to be at.
Oh yeah.
And that's what's weird, because throughout that scene, when they're kind of looking at each other, and it's like the middle school dance, and like, why is she mad at him? She should go up and be kind of apologizing. I never understood that. Like, why is she?
Women, man.
Yeah.
We'll never understand. But yeah, I think it's so RJ dances on the dance floor, and well, this is the thing I've just found out recently. So when JW fails, terribly different stage name guy, auditioned, he told the producers that he could dance, he could ride a skateboard, and he couldn't. So his dancing and when he's riding the skateboard is actually a body double.
Really?
So the main thing about the character dancing skateboarding he couldn't actually do.
The other two were reputable, as far as I could tell. They had this cool bit in the international cut where the girl's doing some breakdance thing on the guy, and he's got like a light bulb in his mouth,
Yeah.
and it's like going on and off. Yeah, it's weird. But RJ, that really, really good friend,
The best friend.
sets him up. Does a little plot. You go ask Jason to dance. You go do this heartbeat thing and get Kelly to dance with you, and we'll turn them around. Dance with each other.
Don't you think it's cute for that couple like dressed the exact same as each other on dance night?
Yes, the two nerds who didn't get the thriller memo.
So yeah, they basically they've on the dance floor and yeah, they kiss and make up. So not
Really
only now is
quickly.
he a karate master, he's got his girlfriend back. Everything's looking good for Jason compared to a few scenes ago.
Yeah. No, he's on the up and the up. Sleediga really helped him get that
So
confidence back, you know?
and the heels arrive. They're crossing the sidewalk, and they've got a new guy with them. Let's see what he is on IMDb. He isn't on IMDb, so I can't see him anyway. The grey-headed guy with the with the frame glasses. So they arrive. They say everything's in place. Was that the scene where Ian confronts him at the dojo? Is there any mention for "I'll fight you" from me, Jim? I don't think he actually said anything like that.
No, there's no setup for New York versus Seattle. It's just happening. And we don't know who the old guy is who they get in the back of the limousine. And he's talking about Seattle is more spectacular. We don't know.
I love the one guy with the posters. He's putting the posters. He's got like 10 in 2 rows. I'm like, surely one poster is enough. And there's this couple. They walk by 8 of them till they're like, oh, great.
It's the 80s, man. Come on.
You see the New York heels training. No, you see both teams training, and the New York Maulers and the Seattle Sidekicks. They're both training in their respective gyms. You see the heel bosses in this fancy house, and it takes us to the fight night. So the main event, the Seattle Sidekicks versus the New York Maulers. I think they're called
Manhattan
Maulers.
has a better ring to it. Yeah.
So, is it in a high school gym?
I don't know where I read that was. It was might have been the Sherman Oaks Community Center or something. I can't remember where I saw that. But basically a big gym, something not so huge to house Seattle versus New York,
So, this part makes me laugh because the New York salesman, whatever his title has, was
agent.
New York agent. He goes in the dressing room and he says, "Right, make sure you along the lines, make sure you win tonight." Why is he saying that when his plans all along is that he's going to fuck them 3 up and bring in Ivan Krasinski? I feel sorry for them guys. They flew all the way or drove all the way to Seattle. They've been pumping up for their fight.
Man. They got a night off. They're loving it. It's catering. It's all sorts of stuff going on in Seattle. Yeah, it's not raining.
We go into the Seattle Sidekicks dressing room. They're all prepping, training. Scott says, if you have any issues,
lean on the big man.
You remember, you got the big guy in the back.
That's right. Such a lackey.
And so the introductions are made.
Yeah.
So
this is the one that really annoyed me. Ian doing the spin kicks. Oh, but they introduced the Seattle spin kicks first.
Sidekicks. Spin kicks or sidekicks?
I thought it was Cyclones, but yeah.
Right. Dean's got the best nickname. Dean Shooting Star Ramsey. I just love that nickname.
But this is where you see Ian doing those 3 spin kicks. He's like, just has a very generic.
Had he not took up martial arts, he really got bullied for his life.
Yeah. It's pretty good. So then New York agent needs no introduction, pushes the announcer out of the way, and says there's been a change in the lineup. And basically we need better competition. So we just really need one man to do what we need to do. And then he says something about like anybody who else who has the balls to take him on.
So, yeah, so New York Agent introduces Ira Krasinski.
It's got the
Ivan's
Goldberg
got what I
entrance.
call the Taz team. They're not very energetic. They're like, ooh.
No.
There's the one guy in particular.
This
He's on
group of
Van
like
Damme's left.
greasers. Yeah, it's pretty good. Brings him down. Yeah, Ivan the Russian, our Russian brother. I think he refers to him. It's like Ivan Krasinski.
Was the Cold War still happening during this time?
I think it was towards the end of all that scare, but they were definitely capitalizing on it, from what I could tell. Different things I've read. Like, yeah, this is before, maybe right around the time of Red Dawn.
Might have been, yeah. It's right about the same sort of time Rocky IV was coming out, and obviously Rocky IV ended the Cold War. So it was right about that sort of time.
If I can change, if you can change, we can all change.
So Ivan's in the ring. Jason walks in there with his dad and RJ.
RJ with the
Ivan.
red Playboy bunny shirt.
Yep.
Just for the occasion.
I'm
They see a ghost,
to suspect
right?
things about RJ.
Well, he likes his Choco Pops. But yeah, they walk in immediately. Sensei Stillwell, Jason notice Krasinski. Jason beelines over to the Seattle team's huddle. Gotta watch out for this Russian. Who's this? Well, it's like, I'm a friend of Kelly's. Don't worry, Jason. Just sit back, enjoy the show. So
you hate Ian.
Oh, it gets better. Trust me. So Dean, first lamb for slaughter.
And the referee with a suspicious looking wig.
Yeah, he looks like Playboy Buddy Rose.
Oh yeah, he does.
He really does. Also of the Northwest.
So this first fight between Dean and Krasinski, aka Van Damme, good fight.
This is the one that has the spinning back fist to the back of the neck.
Yes, it does.
Love that. That was one of my favorite spots. Apparently, Dale Jacoby, I saw an interview where he said, I think they did that once, like where he gets blasted out of the ring. And they had a bunch of boxes set up. He just went flying out there. But then it does a really good cut to him landing on the gym floor. I thought that was really effective. That's clearly a fall that would take one of these guys out for good.
Yeah. That just watched it, great cause. It's like it's seamless because Van Damme essentially does a drop kick, front drop kick.
Yeah. And then later on, we see the referee get thrown out, but you see the crash mat pop up.
Well, Van Damme wins the first one. He does the split rope, the splits on the ropes, and
iconic
like
image.
a badass.
Yeah, such a great image. You know.
So next up, we've got Frank.
Frank puts up a better fight.
So during this, when Van Damme hits him with a spinning roundhouse, apparently he knocked him out twice.
And I read that, but I also saw like a few people on the production talking about how that didn't happen. But that, Cunningham took the fall because that's what he was supposed to do. And he was just selling it. And that there was one cut where because that was part of the rehearsal, was that spin kick. Van Damme nailed him and immediately went down from him. Oh, no.
Yeah.
So that ruined the cut. But like you said, twice, right? So did he really knock him out? Or was Pete Cunningham just a really good seller? I don't know.
When he kicked him, it looked pretty like nailed on. He kicked him. To be fair, and I mean, if it is acting by Cunningham, it was very good acting because it looked like he was knocked out.
Caught him.
Oh, it's definitely caught him. From the looks of it, I'm just watching it now. He comes off the ropes, Van Damme classic jump spin kick, and it looks like he smacks him right in the face. If he didn't, he got close to it. So
and that was
I love it how
with...
they throw in the towel and
stuff goes in the towel.
Yeah, Dean's already got his t-shirt on. He's like, I'm not getting back in that ring. I'm screwed.
Yeah.
So, New York agent says that seeing that they've already won the 2, will say winner takes next fall. So we'll come to the finish in a bit. So, the finish, is it a DQ finish, and does Seattle actually win?
That's a good question, and I'll tell you why it broke down the way that it did. Apparently, Ron Pownell, however you say his name, who played Ian, on the day of that shoot, apparently it took 3 days to shoot that whole ending, the fights and everything. On the day that he's supposed to fight and lose to Van Damme, he came up to production and said, I don't want to lose.
Oh, wow.
I'm not kidding you. Like, he thought Van Damme's an extra in this other movie. Like, who does he think he is? I'm a local champion. This thing, like, really his own hype, and said, I don't want to lose. So that's why it breaks down, where he pulls the turnbuckle pad off, wraps around his face, does the cord, all that stuff, was because they were like, well, we've already established that you're the brother and the sensei and all this stuff. We can't just replace you. So that's apparently why that broke down the way it did. But it lends itself really good for Jason to come in, because he ties him with a rope, he flips him over, starts abusing him, and Jason comes in, does the leap over kick. It's actually like a double kick. It's like,
because
it's great.
This goes 2 rounds, this fight, and this is, besides the end, this is, I would say, is the best fight in the film besides the main fight at the end. I can believe what you say, because the fight is really close.
Yeah.
And Ian gets as many shots in as Van Damme, but there's the point where Ian hits him, like he climbs the ropes, kicks him with the left foot, and Van Damme's looking that way. New York agent's like, kill him! Van Damme pulls his Van Damme face, and he goes and kill him.
Does the Popeye face?
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I love that.
So just tags him, and like you said, he wraps the rope from the corner, wraps it around his neck. He's punching him in the corner. Scott turns babyface. He goes to bite Van Damme's ankles. So that's the babyface turn of the night, in my opinion.
It's not bad. It's kind of a kiss-ass move, but yeah.
Well, man, he put himself on the line there, and he tried to bite him.
Gets headbutted.
I love it how everyone's just watching this happening, by the way.
It's part of the show.
Part of the show.
Kelly gets up with a stool. Yeah, she gets involved. She gets a stool. Because he puts him in the ropes and then flips him over. So he's trapped. He's beating the crap out of him. Kelly gets the stool. He blocks that like a Waffle House attendant. And grabs her by the hair. And that's where Jason comes to save the day.
Yep. Free
kick over.
Free spin kicks in a row. And we get some dialogue by Van Damme when Jason takes his top off.
In a completely quiet gym.
Yeah.
You can hear their echo.
It is you, the son, is it not? But this time it'll be different. Russian. As soon as he said Russian, Van Damme was like, he talked to him. But he just got pissed off when he said Russian.
Oh yeah.
I love this fight, but it's like Van Damme, all the skills Van Damme demonstrated in the previous fights just went out the window. It's like, I call it horror movie logic, when the killer forgets how to kill the victims when it's the final girl.
He's shocked that somebody would dare challenge him in such a way. He was thrown off by Ian, and wasn't expecting this fight.
This is the thing with the international cut, what I'm not a fan of, because he's having flashbacks to the training. Now, sometimes that works, and I don't mind it, but when I watch the other one, it just comes across better without the flashbacks into it. And you got this flashback, but then you've got, like, some others what carries on during the fight. But you got the music playing in the background. Jason's dodging every kick. He's turning to Steven Seagal at this point.
He gets put in the rope thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's when again RJ, now retreat, now surrender, and flips back over.
Yeah.
Big comeback.
And just showing off his skills. Like I said, it's intersplicing with some of the flashbacks. Sometimes it works, but I prefer the other version. But it's like when he's got Van Damme up against the ropes and he's hitting him in the body with the punches, and it flashes back to the coils. And then right at the end, Van Damme's got his leg, and it shows you like Bruce Lee doing the jump kicks, the backflip kick. By the way, both you can watch it. It's clearly an Asian guy doing that flip kick, not stillwell. As I say, the guy also body doubled for the Bruce Lee character as well.
Oh, nice.
So you can clear. I think it's the fight coordinator actually who does it, or someone like on that team does it. But you can clearly see he's Asian, and he's about 5'3". So
there's like a gunshot sound there, isn't there? Like...
Yeah. Everyone's chanting Jason, spinning roundhouse kick, sends Van Damme to the floor. Apparently that bump actually hurt Van Damme when he fell to the floor.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So, the mob has lost. They leave the arena or the stadium or the gym. Everyone's chanting for Jason. Everyone storms.
They left that night. Straight to the airport. Straight to SeaTac.
Everyone's in the ring. They're all throwing him up. Even Dean's there. He's like, "Oh, I acknowledge him. He's the best." They're throwing him up. Music song plays us out, and that's us finished. No retreat, no surrender. Coming in.
That's the iconic song as well. The end credits song.
Yeah.
Right?
It's played a couple of times. It's played during a fight. It's played during one of the training montages, and it's playing now at the end.
Yeah, Stand on Your Own.
So, no retreat, no surrender. So, yeah, great movie. It got panned when it first came out, but I'd like that Rotten Tomatoes, and it's standing at an 80%, so it's doing pretty decent these days.
Yeah, that's one of those films that I feel will live on. I mean, sure, it's dated, it's very 80s, but the essence of the story, and just the charm for it being so low budget, it's great. I think that's what a lot of people really identify, and for huge fan base, the movie, it takes them back to, where they were when they first saw it. It got them into martial arts, into training, eating chocolate pop, all those things.
I listened to one of the reasons it became popular, I would imagine, is due to VHS sales, home video sales.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of Scott Adkins. You are yourself also.
Yeah, right.
And he says one of the reasons why martial art films these days can't succeed is because of the loss of home video. Because when you try and make a movie now, if it's not in the cinema, it's on a streaming service where it can get lost. Whereas back in them days, like No Retreat, No Surrender Bloodsport was a failure to went to VHS. So it done 4 million, so it done well to say it was on a low budget, but definitely earned its cult status through home video, and obviously this gave birth to Van Damme becoming a well, I don't know about mainstream movie star, on his way to mainstream. But after this, the year after, well, this came out in '86, was Bloodsport.
In '84. And then Bloodsport, I believe, was '87.
Right.
Because after No Retreat, No Surrender, I think is when he went on did Predator. So he was signed on to do Predator, and he was doing all that Predator costume stuff. And that's when Canon Films was impressed, thinking, oh, he's in a movie with Schwarzenegger, it's big production. Had no idea that he wasn't going to be seen visibly. I'm like, let's sign him up. 3-picture deal.
Just very, very lucky at him.
Yeah. I mean, just but ambitious. I mean, he went after it to, you know, like he was apparently showing up at Canon's front door, doing spin kicks and doing all this kind of stuff. But very much in a lucky position to use Predator as leverage to get a starring role in Bloodsport. And that was another reason, apparently, they think that he backed out of No Retreat, No Surrender 2. It's because he had gotten this big role in Bloodsport and didn't want to fly to Thailand. They did part 2 in Thailand, and he thought, why can't you just shoot in Los Angeles? You'd think he'd want to go to Thailand. So,
but no, I love the film. Who was the best baby face of the film, Jason or RJ?
RJ is the most consistent babyface by far. It's repeatedly there for him, help him find the abandoned house, help him move stuff in, always a support system for him, helped him with Kelly, said no retreat, no surrender at the exact moment he needed it. I would say RJ. Obviously, lead a guy, be another baby face, but he's more there for a cup of coffee or a can of Diet Coke, and then he bails. How about you? Who do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose Jason, because he's the main character, but RJ definitely up there. Like RJ, like I say, he's just the best friend. He's there whenever Jason needs him, and you know, I don't think out of all the people Jason got upset with in the film, he got upset with a lot of people. RJ's the one person he never got upset with
at all. Yeah, I don't think
like he knew, felt like, yeah, this is my best friend, and it was great. Heel, I suppose Van Damme's Ivan Krasinski, but I'm a Van Damme fan, so I hate him.
So obvious that he would be. I mean, there's a lot of heels. There's more heels than faces in this film,
yeah, Dean's a big heel.
Yeah, Scott was the big instigator at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think the father is a heel as well throughout the first half, and he has the babyface turn once he gets saved. I've been such a fool.
So, as for a rating, so we'll borrow from, I don't say a daily from Eltzer, we borrow from for film fans. This is a guy who thinks he's in the wrestling business, but he just writes about it, but he did create the star system. Are we going 5 stars, or are we going 10 stars, our system, or 7 stars?
I mean, I think out of a 10,
yeah.
I mean, we don't even have to say stars. We can just give numbers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's up there in the 8s.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree, because the fighting is great. Acting is so. Like, guy who played Jason, he was a capable actor. There were some scenes what was off, but that was with his father, so I can understand why he was off.
And this was his first feature. Same with Jean-Claude. Jean-Claude had less than 5 lines, less than 10 minutes of screen time. Jason carries this easily.
Oh, yeah.
If he's not like it, you're not going to buy.
that's another thing. I saw a debate as well. I mean, there's two debates. Who's the better protagonist, Jason Stillwell or Daniel LaRusso? And I'm looking at it because obviously it's the same story. Like, safe to say, No Retreat, No Surrender stole a lot of elements from Karate Kid, but you've got the groundwork with Jason at the beginning. You see him doing martial arts in his dad's dojo. He says to RJ that he's been doing it for about 2 or 3 years. I think 3 years. He says he's been doing karate for. You can see he's a red belt. So, and red belt's nothing to, look down on. They're capable. Trust me. And obviously, it's rather the spirit of Bruce Lee or the concussion, but he's read so many Bruce Lee books. Safe to say, he's picked up some things from them books. Either way, that's why it might be a subconscious theory. But LaRusso, in Karate Kid, he says to Miyagi that I had a couple of lessons, and then within a few months, he defeats all these karate guys who's been doing it for years.
They were misled. They're misled by Kreese.
I love Karate Kid, by the way, everyone. So don't hate me. I love Cobra Kai, even though Paul doesn't.
Don't get me started on that.
We'll do that watch along one day.
Yeah,
that's when we get to 10,000 subscribers, everyone.
Daniel LaRusso, he's being bullied by 4 guys, 5 maybe. How many in the original Cobra Kai? I mean, there was a whole school after him, right? But he doesn't do himself any favors by doing the water hose thing and all. But those are natural things you would do if you had the opportunity to get back at the bully, right? If you can't beat him physically, then you'll pull a prank on him and pour water on him in the bathroom. But you don't see Jason Stillwell doing anything to incite more rage for the bad guys, right? He's just really internally frustrated with himself because he can't do it. He wants to be Bruce Lee. He wants to be the best he can, but he's just not getting it. And through the spirit of Lee Degas, gives him that boost and the confidence, and teaches him about clearing his mind and focus and believing in himself. And so I think at surface value, there's a more pure story here because it's truly within himself. Whereas with Daniel-san, he's a bit of a punk kid, he's from New Jersey. And, he's trying to get the girl. And I feel Johnny was a more serious adversary than Dean, and actually dated him. So, yeah.
It's a hard one. So, Karate Kid is a better movie. Like, for acting and everything else, it's a better movie. But which film do you actually enjoy more? I enjoy No Retreat, No Surrender more. And I say this as someone who loves Karate Kid, but I enjoy No Retreat, Surrender more for some reason. I think the fights are better, hands down. The fights are a million times better.
I have a feeling that I saw No Retreat, No Surrender before Karate Kid, believe it or not. I could be wrong. I mean, my CTE kicks in. I can't remember, but yeah, they're both films that if I just happen upon them, I'll watch the rest of it. But that's not going to happen, right? Because you're not just flipping channels anymore. But I think the shorter version, definitely you can watch it from start to finish.
Yeah.
Karate Kid's longer, though, and it's hard to compare. It has so much more production value.
Yeah, that's a big difference. Before I get to my next one, so there is the 2 versions. There's the international version, which is about an hour, 40 minutes long, give or take. Then you got the American cinematic theater version, which is also the VHS version I got as a kid from the UK. That's shorter. There's a couple of scenes placed differently. The music is completely different as well. I do think that's the better version. I love both, but the shorter version, the American version, it's like we mentioned at the top, the beginning of the international version. You're overlooking LA and there's funky 80s music going dun 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 dun. Whereas in the American version opens up just up against a poster and like real somber music, and it's like real serious. And when they're training in Jason's father's dojo, there's no music, and a lot of the fighting, there's no music at all.
Yeah, the sound design's really weird on this film. It sounds a lot of
Yeah.
times like they're recording in times of like an empty room.
Yeah, but both versions are available. So the international version's on Amazon, but both versions are available on YouTube as well. So if you type in No Treat No Surrender American version, you'll see it's like 1 hour 18 minutes long, give or take, something like that. Then there's also the international version, which is the longer one. But if you want to watch both, I would say watch the shorter version first, and then you'll see what the difference is with the longer version. But as for the next one I was going to talk about, someone made a fan trailer of No Retreat, No Surrender with
I
Van
saw
Damme.
that.
And he's just got released from prison and he wants his revenge. And I'm like, because that's Van Damme's said his biggest regret is the fact he hasn't got a franchise.
I mean, I guess he only has himself to blame for that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
Universal Soldier doesn't really count because I feel like that sequel was just so poor compared to the first one. You know,
the one with Scott Adkins is
Goldberg and
okay.
Michael Jai White. I didn't see that all the way through because that was a direct-to-video as well.
Yeah, Van Damme's like it's the same character, but he's like a heel on it now.
That's right.
It's better than the one with Goldberg.
Oh, yeah, that one's like, doesn't he have some line where he falls off the building? He's like, oh, that hurt. Or something stupid.
Yeah. But yeah, it's and I think he tried to get AWOL, but there's like this guy that owns the rights and they couldn't get it. Or no, it was Kickboxer. No, it wasn't Kickboxer. My mistake. It's Bloodsport. There was this Italian guy who's got the rights to Bloodsport, and it was Daniel Bernhardt. He starred in the Bloodsport sequels. He wanted to direct it, and when they said we want to bring Van Damme, and he's like, "Okay, I'm directing it," and Van Damme was like, "Daniel Bernhardt wants to direct me." So yeah, and there's been talks
Daniel Bernhardt's awesome.
Yeah, and there's been the talks of a AWOL Lionheart sequel where Denise has become like a reporter, and she looks into how her father got killed, and the gang that killed her father got released from prison, and it leads to Van Damme coming back. So, but yeah, it's a shame he hasn't got a franchise. But like No Retreat, No Surrender, I saw a fan film thing, and I was like, yeah, this wouldn't be too bad. But that's that. But yeah, so Paul, our first movie review. I think we've gone longer than the movie. So,
we might have, but I'm sure hopefully we've imparted some knowledge that, you know, I learned a lot researching the behind the scenes of this and how it all came together, and made me appreciate it a lot more.
Oh yeah,
and hopefully, we'll get into the sequels.
Yeah, and this is the thing with this podcast now, everyone, because we want to do it because we both love movies, but we also want to drop some knowledge on you, like tell you like the things what went into this film and like some random trivia and stuff like that, and not just you listening to us like talk about the movie, but also some of the things that went behind it and like learn stuff basically. But no, I enjoy this, and I don't know if this could be a weekly show yet or a bi-weekly show. We're still working on that one. But we'll see how we go. But yeah, everyone, we've got a cameo appearance from Doug.
Okay. And I'll just let everyone see that I'm also Jason Stillwell through and through.
Oh yeah.
No, thanks for everyone listening and putting up with our putting up with it, listening to our markish ways. And if you ever find yourself Having to relocate to another city where your summer fling lives. Careful who you surround yourself with. Make sure he can break dance, likes choco bars, has a Walkman, can skateboard but not really, can break dance but not really. Friends, that's what it's all about. And believing in yourself.
No retreat.
No surrender.
Thanks, everyone. And yeah, comment below on what you'd like to see us review next. Bye bye.
Thanks, y'all.